Hello everybody, my name is Sniping is Fun, and I welcome you all back to my next The 5 list. I'm going to present to all of you here on YouTube, and this is going to be a continuation of the list of the last list I just did, detailing DLC for Fire Emblem Warriors, a crossover between the Fire Emblem franchise and the Musou series, the Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors games, that just came out recently in Japan, and comes out the end of this month in America and everywhere else around the world. A crossover that a lot of Fire Emblem fans have been wanting, and a lot of Fire Emblem fans have been complaining about because of who is in it and who is supposedly not in it, blah blah blah, and about the DLC being the 3 games in the game, and blah blah blah. And I already talked about this in the first list. I'm not going to talk about it here because I'll have my own video discussion talking about the pros and cons of what's going on with that and Fire Emblem 2018 Switch game in its own list. But the first one I talked about was in this series was the 5 main characters / lords of the Fire Emblem franchise I want to see as DLC in Fire Emblem Warriors, or if they ever did a sequel of Fire Emblem Warriors 2, I want to see them included in that game. That was the main characters, the Micaiahs, the Hectors, the Sigurds, Alm and whatnot. But this list is going to be the side characters, the characters that are not the main focal point of their games. They're not the major characters, but they play just as an important part, and they add to the diverse armies that you can build in these games, and they add to the diverse casts that you can actually acquire, and unique characters and fighting styles and class types and everything you can basically acquire by using these people. They may not be the main characters, but they are just as important to the series as their main character counterparts like Roy, Ike, and Marth. And for something like a crossover with Fire Emblem Warriors, we already have side characters from Shadow Dragon, Fates, and Awakening. So I was thinking, like with DLC, I did a list for the main characters lords. This list is going to be for side characters, which I think just are as important to include in a Musou crossover game. And I would assume characters like this that aren't their major characters should just be as important to add and diversify the cast as their main character counterparts, just like I recently said. And a lot of people want some of these characters. Some of these characters are more wanted than others and stuff like that. But there are a lot of side characters from the franchise that are wanted by the fans of the series and the fans of the Musou series and blah, blah, blah. These are the 5 I personally think. The 5 side characters from the Fire Emblem franchise that I think should be DLC in Fire Emblem Warriors or include in a Fire Emblem Warriors 2 sequel game. And let me start off with the basic choice that I really want to see, and I do think some other people really want to see as well. He is a recent character from the remake of Gaiden Echoes, and that is Gray. Now, we would have to specifically have the Echoes version of Gray, because I look back on Gaiden, he was pretty freaking generic in that game. But in this one, they make him kind of a smart-ass kind of type character, and he has a diverse personality in this game, and he's just so damn likable. That's the reason why I want to see him. He's like one of the first early-on characters you get in Echoes that I thought was pretty freaking interesting. He was pretty freaking entertaining, and I'd really like to see him, playable, not just for how he fights, but for his personality. He would come out on the field and how he would remark against his enemies and his teammates and just his personality. That's first and foremost. He's a villager. He starts off as a villager in the game, so you can pretty much make him like any class type you want, like a mercenary or an archer or whatever the heck else. So his moveset can be pretty diverse. He doesn't even have to be a sword user. He could use spears, lances. He could fight like a mercenary. He could use a bow. He could ride a horse. You could do whatever you want. You can make him a knight or anything. So moveset wise, in terms of potential for a Fire Emblem Warriors, Gray has a lot of freaking potential to be just freaking diverse. Multiple different weapons that you could pick for him, like how they did in Hyrule Warriors. Every character pretty much had a different moveset type based off the weapon they were using, especially Link. There's Gray for you. He can use a sword, he can use a spear, he can ride a horse, he can use a bow. Just make him the villager that could, class change into anything. And he does have some, as far as his, his stats go, he does have pretty good attack, so he'd probably be able to do pretty decent damage. And he's pretty average in terms of like skill, speed, and defense. So his special attacks would be pretty decent. He'd be pretty decent in speed and defense, but he's low in luck, so maybe the amount of damage he deals based off his special attacks or so might random and diversify and maybe not be that good. He's not the best class, but depending on how you level him up, he can be pretty decent, so maybe those stats can change depending on how you level him up in Fire Emblem Warriors. And that's about it. Just Gray. Like, I'm serious. This character deserves to just go out on the field and kick ass. He really is freaking awesome, and I think he's one of the most interesting characters they did in terms of the remake of Gaiden with Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. That was the first one. My second one is a pretty important character in terms of the class they have, because we don't have a character in it except for one, technically two, and that goes to Leaf from Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. A Laguz. We know we have the Makates and, in the dragon form of Korin, and then we have Tiki now as a dragon and, 2 dragons, but we only have dragons. Those beast people from all these Fire Emblem games vary from birds to cat people to giant rabbit mole type creatures. And Leaf, in my opinion, is one of the most important characters from Ike's games as a side character that I think should be in there. A cat Laguz, so you could probably have a diverse moveset based off if you have her in human form, which you can fight as, or you have her in Laguz form. So maybe it's like a time-based system where you could transform into a Laguz, but it's only time-based, so you have to practice on mastering how to fight as her in order to use a moveset that, is time-based. Like, you only could be in Laguz form for so form, and that increases her stats and makes her stronger. And if you're fighting in her human form, she's more vulnerable to damage, and she doesn't deal as much damage. But your human form start off with, and you have to build up maybe a special gauge in order to turn into your Laguz form, which means you have to strategize around her, pros and cons of having that such thing as a moveset, which I think would be diverse enough, not just in terms of how you do a Laguz form, but to differentiate her from Korin and Tiki, which can go full force, special into their forms, but Leaf technically can't for a whole long length of time. And she's just kind of a cool personality. She's a pretty interesting character. She's one of my favorite side characters from those games, especially in Path of Radiance. And she does have some pretty good skills in terms of like strength and skill and speed and luck and defense. Her stats diversify a bit between the games, but she's pretty good in skill and speed and defense. But that's mostly because of her Laguz form. So you could probably make her not as good in her human form, but good in her Laguz form. But like I said, time-based, so she's not good the entire time. So you have to strategize. I think that makes you differentiate her not just from Tiki and Korin, but from the entire rest of the cast, because we don't just need Makates. We need, like, Laguz, and those are some of, like, popular, animal morphing people from this series as well, especially because a lot of people do like Ike's games, Makai and whatnot, Path of Radiance, Radiant Dawn, and I think if there's any characters downloadable from those games that are not named Ike and Micaiah, I think Leaf should be one of the top choices. The next choice goes to a character from 2 different games, technically, and it's from Genealogy of the Holy War and Thracia 776, and that is Brigid and Ivel. Technically, she's one form in one game, one form in another game. She's one of the major side characters in, Sigurd's games and Leaf's games. In one game, she's a sniper, so she uses a bow. In another game, she's a swordmaster, so you could probably allow her to have swords as one choice for a weapon, and then a bow for her other. And you can basically make her either a type of character that's like Lyn, or a type of character that's maybe like Takumi. And basically, she does have some pretty good stats. She's good at strength and speed and skill. She's kind of average at defense. She's really bad at luck and resistance, so she probably won't be able to take a whole lot of damage, and she won't be doing too much damage with her specials. But she'd be doing normal damage, good damage with her normal attacks and her skill-based stuff. So it kind of balances out kind of there, where she does decent with her skill, but it's based off of luck. So maybe she doesn't always do good with her special attacks, Mushu attacks, and defense. She won't be able to take a whole lot of damage, especially if she's an archer. But I think if she's a swordmaster, she might be able to take a little bit more damage. Maybe her stats can vary based on what weapon you give her. But she is a pretty important character in terms of Sigurd, Seliph, and Leaf's games. And I think for a character that's not ever been released outside of Japan, I think she's one of the top choices for someone that we should have as someone that's a Japanese exclusive character, and maybe we can finally get some importance and popularity to her, so we can finally get these games, remade and localized, because there's still about 3 or 4 games missing from the series that are not outside Japan. So Brigid, Ivel, my 3rd choice. My 4th choice goes to someone from Sacred Stones. I mentioned this character in my main characters list, and that character goes to it, and everyone friggin' wants him. Everyone, it might not be like Hector level or Ephraim level, but Joshua. He's a sword master, a mercenary type character, a Mimrodin. I know we have so many sword characters, but he would basically be like a Lyn type character, and we only have one Lyn, so he's like a super fast. He's good at skill and speed. He's kind of average with luck and strength, and he's bad with resistance and defense, so he won't be able to take too much damage. But he's good with his speed, running around the field, and kind of skill based. So his Mushu attacks be pretty decent. And he would do decent damage with his normal attacks and luck. Maybe he would be lucky, I don't know, but he's kind of average with that. Like, come on. And he has a cool look that's unique and different. He's from a character that's from the Game Boy Advance era, which we don't have too many of those yet. And I think if someone is to be included in the Game Boy Advance era that's not from Lynn's game, and it's not Ephraim or Erica or whatnot, or from Roy's games for that matter, Joshua. Everyone really wants Joshua, and he's like one of the cooler story characters in the game. He's not really Navarre cool, but he's cool nonetheless. And include Joshua, please. And my final side character, and technically you can kind of count her as a main character as well, because she's kind of one of the two main characters in her game. But I'm counting her as a side character because the main other character is like one of the major characters that, you know, Nintendo has been using a lot in Smash Brothers. So it probably gives you a spoiler for who this character is. It is also from a character that's not from, at least outside Japan, which totally probably should give you away who it is. Roy. And that goes to Lilina. And if you don't know who Lilina is, it's Hector's daughter. She's basically a mage character. She's pretty good at resistance. She's average at magic and skill, which kind of makes no sense, and speed and luck because she's a mage. So she probably... These are like base stats. I looked up base stats when I did this. Like what you start off with. So when she levels up, she probably becomes much better at magic because she is a mage. So I'm hoping that her stats get really good when you level her up more. And she's kind of bad at defense. So she can't take a whole lot of damage. She's average at her magic and speed and luck, and she's good at resistance, so she could not take too much damage, but she's resistant to maybe some sort of damage, and then her magic attack will be pretty good. Lilina, like, that's another character. It's from Roy's game. It's from Binding Blade. Another character that's not been released outside Japan. Put this character in there. Get some interest in her and Roy so we can get a remake of his game. Please, Nintendo. Please, Intelligent Systems. Please, Koei Tecmo. Top DLC character. Not my most wanted side DLC character. That goes to Gray and Leith. But Lilina, Hector's daughter, if they can include Hector eventually as DLC, include his daughter here as well. Have father and daughter just kicking ass on the field. There you go, Lilina. And that's it for my 5 side characters from the Fire Emblem franchise I want to see as DLC in Fire Emblem Warriors, or included in a sequel to Fire Emblem Warriors. And they are Gray from Fire Emblem Echoes, Leith from Path of Radiance, Radiant Dawn, Ivo Brigid from Thracia 776 and Genealogy of the Holy War, Joshua from Sacred Stones, and Lilina from Binding Blade. Hope you guys like this list. Please subscribe if you want to. Have a lovely day. And put in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys want to see any of these 5 characters? And what other side characters from the Fire Emblem franchise would you like to see in the Fire Emblem Warriors, the DLC now, or in a potential sequel down the line? See you all later. Bye.